Morning folks, Ariel over here where I am working on pulling back the grass and stuff a little bit from the trees in the orchard just so they don't get choked till they can get a little bigger and outgrow it. And you'll probably see Velcro, our new mouse trap, running around in the camera as well. She joined us from another little farm and has so far been doing great, and as soon as she gets a little bit bigger than the mice themselves, hopefully that will be her new job. Excuse me, kitty. Anyway, what I wanted to talk about today was finally getting to discussion of the shop we plan to and are working on building. This was something Clay and I had talked about before we even, purchased this property in particular. When we were just property shopping, we knew for sure that we needed a shop area. Building has been his primary occupation for most of his life. He has all the tools and stuff to do all kinds of construction, but you need a place to store them, and a place, with our climate here, if you're going to work on a lot of things through the winter, some kind of indoor place where you're not trying to work under snow for building a lot of different things. So we knew that was going to be important to us, and to make that happen efficiently, though he could certainly build the whole thing since he's still working full-time as well at other jobs, we figured it would make sense to get a shell of a building put up by a crew that could show up and do it in a couple days, and then everything else he wants to finish we can work on as we have time, but then it would be under a roof. We could have things stored in the dry and have a place to do all kinds of projects, since there's obviously not a lot of indoor space in the tiny house for doing anything like that. Riley has been really good with Velcro. He sometimes plays what looks like a little rough to me, but if she thinks it's too rough, she'll swat his nose and she doesn't back down at all, and they seem to get along. Easy, baby. Easy. I know, you think she's a fun playmate. Yeah, but she's going to swat your nose if you're not gentle. She is. Remember, she's got good claws. Anyway, so last fall, when we first closed on this property, well, midsummer we closed, but we got on the, phone to several different companies that build pole barns, because that's a fairly, compared to other building methods, a fairly fast way to get a shell up, and that was something we knew that we wanted to do. And in this area, there's about 2 companies that do that, and we call both of them. The one is a big national chain. Bradley, come over here. Bradley, over here. Over here. Lay down. Lay down. Good boy. And the other one is a semi-local company. They work across a couple states in our corner of the world, but I prefer to work with local companies when possible, and support, our semi-local neighbors, and they had tons of great reviews from happy customers, so we had a contract with them to build it. Now, we would have been happy to have it done last fall, but they were booked out till the middle of winter at the time when we contacted them, and they do cover some areas that aren't quite as snowy as here, and we knew that building in the middle of winter here was going to be not the most convenient thing in the world. So we said, push us off till spring, do other people's projects through the winter, and come when the snow melts and do ours instead of showing up in February to do it. Really, lay down, leave her be. I know, I love you best. I do, but I'm trying to talk to the camera. I am. Anyhow, so we waited anxiously all through the winter, and then it got to be spring, and the snow melted, and we called the company, and they said, oh, well, keep in mind, this contract was signed last October, and had been paid then. And so then we were a little startled to hear this spring when we called and said, okay, the snow's gone. Oh, well, we don't order any of the materials for your building or put you on the schedule at all until we inspect the building site. We had the building site completely ready before we even had the contract with them. And the one sales guy we talked to had said, oh, I'll come, check it out so we know where we're going to build. I'm going to be going on a fishing trip. I'll come by. And then he got busy and didn't come, and we said, okay. And then he, was going to come another time, and then he got busy again and didn't make it. And again, we were like, fine, we know we're ready. There's nothing in anything in the contract that says they needed to inspect it first. So we were a little startled to hear that. But they got somebody out in the spring finally and said, okay, now we're going to order the materials and put you on the schedule, which was a little frustrating because we were really hoping to have that building, done about the week that they finally decided to add us to their schedule and start ordering materials that had been paid for, 8 months before. And so we waited, and they finally showed up. Now we're about 6 weeks after we were hoping to have it done when they show up to start building. And in between, that's why the poultry all ended up in the tiny house. Leave her be. I know, she's playing. Lay down. Lay down. Good boy. Because when they were ordered back in January, we were fully expecting to have a shop building up where they could be in and out of the weather when they were, little couple-day-old chicks. But it wasn't done. They weren't here. So we ended up with, eventually, one batch after another, many dozens of poultry in the tiny house for several weeks, which was not the most convenient. And in the meantime, we're trying to start on all the summer, projects, like getting all the trees planted and all of that stuff. But we have nowhere to store any of the tools or anything like we had been counting on. But anyway, they finally got here. And part of what was frustrating for all those weeks till this day when they showed up is we kept being told, oh, we think we'll be there, by the end of next week. And then it was like, oh no, we won't be. Actually, it'll be Monday a week from now. And then, oh, well, we're not going to make that either. So it just kept, getting dragged on and on with, we are coming, oh, we're not. Oh, we are, oh, we're not. And we'd rearranged our schedules multiple times over this. So that part was rather frustrating. That delay added a good bit of stress to the spring and early summer for both of us. And they start, the crew guys that actually showed up was very nice, and they start drilling all the holes to set the posts. You want to play with my weeds? Get done most of the way around, and then in this time lapse you gotta watch kind of close. I just set the camera on time lapse just so I could have a record to show you guys of how the building went together. And I was back in the garden weeding when the crew boss comes walking over and says, I think we hit water. Now we have gravity fed spring water here from a spring that's about 2 miles up the mountain behind us, and so what's making it flow is gravity. There's no pump or anything to turn off. And they had drilled directly through the water main. Now this was very much not the fault of... Lay down. Good boy. Very much not the fault of the crew. We were responsible for doing all of the locates for, anything like power lines, water lines, all of that. We, to the best of our knowledge, had done so. We had an engineer's drawing. That is what the realtor gave us when we bought this property, that showed where that water line ran. It ran right down the edge of the road. That's where we assumed it was. That would be a sensible place to run it, because it goes to a couple neighbors here. It's not like a public water system, but it's a few neighbors here share the spring water. Our closest neighbor had the same drawing from the same engineer, thought that his line was in the same place, and so on. Anyway, it wasn't. It was about 109 feet from where it was supposed to be. And so they drilled directly into it, and we had a water geyser going off. So that day we got to meet a whole lot of our new neighbors because we had just knocked them out of water, and we had to get a hold of everyone to figure out where shutoffs were in this is like a 4-inch water main that we drilled through, or they drilled through. So to get that all shut down, by the time we got it all turned off, we'd run, I don't know, 100,000 gallons of water or something into the building pad, collapsed all the holes they just drilled, turned everything to a complete muddy mess. That was a very, very stressful day. And again, that drilling into it, was done by the crew that was here, but that was entirely not their fault. There was no way they could know it was there. There was no way we, knew it was there. But now we know where it is. And so they couldn't continue their building that day. Clay had to re-level out the whole building pad, fill the holes back in, recompress it. Of course, we had to patch the water pipe and get water, going again to us and the neighbors, and, just basically start over. So he got that all done. He worked till after dark that night and got it all done. Called the company and said, okay, we're really sorry. This was, as far as we can tell, unavoidable. I mean, the one who really messed up was the engineers, who didn't have an accurate drawing of where it was. And probably the realtor didn't know it. We certainly didn't know it. Neighbors didn't know it. This pipeline was put in a long, long time ago. And there's not that many people still living here or alive that were around when it was done. And now we all know. So that put that on hold. The crew had already moved on to another job for the day. And then again, it was a little frustrating that they said, oh, we'll have to reschedule it. We can't come back for a week. And we were both kind of like, well, you obviously started somebody's job a day early because you left our job. I'm not sure why when you finish that one you can't just come straight back here, because whatever that crew is doing now will be done early. Then you should be able to come back to the project here because we've got it ready to go again and all fixed up. We had to shift the building back about 8 feet to get it off of that pipeline, and we did that. Anyway, so that was the start of this whole project. And in this time lapse, you can see, if you watch closely, I wasn't expecting to be filming this, but you can see them working as they drill holes around. All of a sudden you can just see water flooding the entire site, pouring out of everything. going to be a little series of videos on getting this shop built, and that was the start of it. Fairly stressful, and it involved a whole lot of work and hassle that were not planned on, but that's sometimes how life goes. So that was the getting started. Over here at Nyth, thank you so much for watching these videos and spending some of your very valuable time choosing to do that. We hope you found something that was useful, educational, helpful, maybe save someone else some time and trouble, or just something just plain beautiful. If you don't want to miss any videos, subscribe and hit the bell. And thanks for coming along on our journey as we build a new little homestead with our tiny house and everything to come.